feel the ground shake. They see the crown, it was mine to take. Sleeping on me, that's a big mistake. Now the whole world about to be awake. Every move calculated, every step is a plan. Building an empire with my own two hands. Heavy, the pressure on my name. Heavy, it's the price of the game. Whoa. They can't stop the rain. Feel the bass in your frame. It's heavy, everything stays the same. I don't need the flash, I just need the cash. Made 100 grand, gone in a dash. They follow trends, I'm built to last. Living life fast, forget about the past. Every move calculated, every step is a plan. Let's go. Building an empire with my own two hands. Heavy, the pressure on my name. Heavy, it's the price of the game. They can't stop the rain. Feel the bass in your frame. Yeah, it's heavy, everything stays the same. Watching my moves, they copy the style. Been doing this for a while. Head down, stay focused on the prize. Look up, see the fear in their eyes. Heavy, the pressure on my name.
This is not a toothpaste, it's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts, Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here. that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphabetic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphabetic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world. Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All their seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out trueleafmarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And welcome to Civilization Cycle. I was going to look in there in the chat. People were saying all kinds of stuff. There it is. Dana, hello. Hello. And there's James Foster with appears to be 3 poofs of smoke. Don't know what that means. Have no idea. Curious to see what wrong predictions Dave makes. Well, it's not like we're Zoltar here. We're just looking at the headlines and making predictions on stuff. So obviously, we're going to be wrong a lot of the time or some of the time. It's not like we're Nostradamus. However, I've been right about a lot of stuff, so I don't know what you're saying there. Thank you for your time. No, thank you for watching. Planting my seeds. Garden season. It is. I'm about to be out there doing the same thing. Just got to do a little more cleaning up. Renegotiating. That's right. So we're just going to jump right into the news here. Funky style of news here. The crystal ball. I've seen some crystal one time, but it wasn't in a ball shape. Had to leave that behind. That was not a future I was planning on having. I seen a bunch of people, playing with their crystal balls, looking in these light bulbs, trying to invent electricity, and it's just never going to happen. If you know what I mean. Anyway, let's check out over here. We got some breaking news with old Chuck Norris. 86 years old, hospitalized in Hawaii after a mystery medical emergency. It might be that he's 86 years old. He probably got some recent medication, too. I've been seeing a lot of heart attacks happening on people that aren't really that old. Matter of fact, I think I turned that one off, but I was looking at one about a mayor. I think it was in Ohio or Idaho. One of those ones. Anyway, the guy was like 47. He was taking his inaugural acceptance speech or whatever it was and had a heart attack and ticked off. So no telling. Let's pray for Chuck Norris, man. He made hairy chest cool back in the day. And, he's been exercising forever. I always tripped out on him. He just kept going. And, what was weird about him is although his Hollywood presence was kind of corny, in my opinion, he was a real martial artist. And he did like guns and liberty and all that good stuff. So let's move on. It's not looking good in the job sector, pal. Job creation is near zero, according to them. Fed sees unemployment holding at 4.4 amid low labor force growth driven by immigration declines and lower participation rates. Well, it looks like people are just going to have to get over themselves and get out there and get a job, do some work, some good, nice, clean work. Maybe it's outside, maybe it's inside. Either way, you're doing something with your time and you're getting paid. But the millennials and the Zers, well, they don't seem to like to work. I don't know why that is. They think that, the system of freedom and prosperity and stuff was just, going to be there and given to them at any time. But I hate to tell you, somebody has to work and pay for all of that stuff. Despite wanting a communist utopia, just never seems to work out. But, it might be that there's not really that many jobs out there, considering that some jobs disappear. AI is taking other jobs, and I mean a lot of jobs. But I think that's when humans have to face the fact that a lot of the jobs out there were actually non-productive jobs, meaning that they didn't actually build or create anything. It was all data management or regulatory management or, some kind of banking or something where you worked in an office, telemarketing, sales, IT, programming, all of it gone to the AI. And it's going to increasingly, exponentially get worse the further we go on, because these models of AI are just getting better and better, and the computers and the processing power is becoming more and more. So it leaves us to do only one thing, and I would think that would be gardening and growing your own food, because eventually things are going to come to a head where no one is creating nothing, no one is producing anything, and the money can't be worth anything at that point. It's called private credit, and it could lead to big trouble on Wall Street. I'm not really worried about Wall Street, except for the fact that when Wall Street crashes, the plebeians, the peasants, the blue collar, and everybody that doesn't have millions upon millions of dollars will be the ones that suffer. The risky lending business known as private credit is causing some get out of here. Real news by real humans. I don't know if I believe you. I'm a real human. Or am I? I don't know. Anyway, where was I? Public problems for banks and investors with implications that go far beyond Wall Street. Like I said, private credit refers to an opaque but fast-growing corner of the financial world when private equity firms and other companies that aren't banks lend money to businesses such as software companies and auto lenders. So if they're AI at their company can't produce, it's just money into oblivion. Banks are often more reluctant to lend directly to those businesses which they see as riskier bets, but they're still exposed to them because banks do lend to private credit firms. But really, all of the lending and money that I've been seeing going on is people giving over their titles to their cars, their houses, or they're doing reverse mortgages or some kind of pay me till I die or get out of my property, which is shrinking the private property market exponentially. And that the more that's going to happen until eventually only corporations own private property. But that's okay because, they already consider themselves legally as personhood. So what could go wrong with that? The bond market is flashing a signal not seen since the 2008 crisis. What was that? Was that Enron and all that stuff? I think it was. Troubling developments unfold in the U.S. bond market Thursday that had some investors drawing comparisons with the run-up to the 2008 financial crisis. It might be because we were about to borrow, hundreds of billions of dollars to ramp up war efforts. Is the world really on war, or is everyone just renegotiating what worths are you're going to be put on anything from resources to people to land management or occupying said land and then managing it? So Trump ally warns U.S. economy not strong enough to cope with Iran war. That may or may not be. We could probably eat it. We could be, totally committed to serfdom and just keep paying money for endless wars. But I thought the whole idea of this administration, not to get too political, but that's kind of what they were running on. No more future wars, no more endless wars, no more foreign wars, no more foreign entanglement, etc., etc., etc. But it doesn't seem that anything ever changes no matter who's in office. And I'm predicting that Republicans are probably going to lose a bunch of seats in the 2026 elections. And I don't think it's because of any one reason. I think it's just the cycle. If you've been paying attention for decades, what happens is you'll get an all Republican Congress, Senate, and an executive branch, or vice versa. And they won't do anything for the American people the entire time that they have total control over the system. You saw it through Biden. You just saw it with Trump. They act like they can't get bills passed or they can't do something that will actually help or benefit the American people. But they have endless money for other projects, such as, redrawing the maps, regime change, all of that stuff. It always happens. So what will happen is Democrats will take a bunch of seats, and then the Republicans will say that they can't help the public, or, they can't get a certain bill or a certain idea or a certain narrative passed through. Well, it's because those Democrats are those pesky independents or the Republicans in name only kind of people and all of that stuff. But it's just a game. It happens every time. They always do it. I'm pretty sure that you can go look at the past administrations, and when they had a trifecta of the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, they didn't do diddly squat except for spend trillions of more money, putting us at an ever expanding, unimaginable debt on our children, grandchildren, and their grandchildren, if they're born. But anyway, I don't know. I think we can actually absorb this war just like we've absorbed lots of wars. The only thing you can really do is vote either at the ballot box, but if that doesn't work, you always have the other boxes, the ammo box, etc. You vote 3 times. You vote with your dollar, You vote in the ballot box, and if all else fails, well, crazy people do crazy things in crazy times. I'm not advocating or anything, not like, the founding fathers who did, in fact, advocate that V word. I'm not going to say it because of the algorithm, but I think we all know what I'm talking about, or at least all the people in my head. All right, let's move on here. Yes. Oh, David Dubine is not on tonight, so he's not going to make any predictions that upset you, whoever that was. So, actually, he makes a lot of predictions that are right. And one of those was that it looks like, gasoline and oil is going to push to 200. I think I saw one where they're estimating at 166 by next week, and then who knows what happens if things keep rolling along. Never forgets Trump cracks awkward Pearl Harbor quip in front of Japanese PM who knows better about surprises than anybody but Japan. But it was pretty funny because a Japanese reporter asked Trump if, or why rather, he didn't share any intel with his European or Asian Pacific partners before they started striking Iran. And he said, well, maybe rightly so. Why would I tell anybody what we were going to do? That doesn't seem right. And besides, nobody warned us. And he said, Japan knows all about surprise attacks, because nobody warned us about Pearl Harbor. But if you know history, that might be not exactly right. I don't think it was literally the Japanese that warned us, but it is historical fact that the president and several other people knew of a incoming attack on Pearl Harbor, and yet for some reason the people at Pearl Harbor did not get notified. I don't know. You could say what you want, false flag. Maybe it was another one of those things, like blow up all the old equipment so we can build a bunch more and make sure that everybody feels patriotic and involved, feeling that they're personally attacked in Pearl Harbor, which is what happened. And we went to war. Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. Who cares? That's what happened. And I thought it was a pretty good quip there from the president, ironically. But, Japan is our ally, supposedly today. And she did look a little uncomfortable. However, they seem to be pretty good buddies. Thought it was funny myself. I don't know. Who knows more about surprise attacks than Japan, he said. Drones over base where Rubio and Hegg says live raise security concerns. Oh, not live. Live. It's where they live, not alive. Sorry about that. Anyway, drones over the base where Rubio and Hexeth live raise security concerns. I find it ironic that they're pushing a narrative that we might get drone attacked in the United States somewhere in the mainland. And really, that's a good possibility considering that hundreds of thousands of people just crossed right over the border, unchecked, unverified. But in my opinion, they probably were surveilled, and they probably did know that they came across, and they probably were identified by our intelligence agencies that for some reason, even though, persistently and repeatedly, people become on their radar and they were aware of that person, they fail to do anything about it until something weird happens. But, never let a tragedy or an emergency go to waste. You can always, enact new rules, regulations, and laws if, perhaps a drone does fly into some base or building in the United States like we've seen in the Middle East and blow up something or kill some people. But could it be stopped? I think so. I think it really could. Easily, because I think they have better intelligence than they lead on. They purposely act dumb about certain things. They let certain things happen or don't do anything, or for whatever reason, a failure to communicate, which is hard to believe after 2001 and supposedly the different various agencies becoming one big conglomerate of Homeland Security and the national security apparatus being able to spy and surveil everyone illegally, as we know from Edward Snowden and others. And they, admit it, obviously, all the time, that they spy on everyone all the time. Every keystroke, every email, every text message, every video, every phone, every tablet, every computer, every smart refrigerator, every smart meter, it's all working in tandem and in conjunction to spy on you in one way or another. I might have missed it since David is moving. Should we be worried, Ransom? I was going to try and weather this storm, but should I try and look and get passports? Well, me personally, I don't think you can run anywhere unless you just got a really nice niche. You're still living, if you live in the US, one of the freest today countries in the world, that you have more freedoms and opportunities to do things. Now, I would admit that those freedoms and opportunities are evaporating all around you constantly, daily, exponentially. However, we still are in a good position here. And no, I wouldn't worry. I don't think we're ever going to go to the extent that we'll be exchanging nuclear weapons. And if they did, they would probably only do a couple cities. My guess would be like Phoenix or Detroit. Just saying that because Phoenix and the rising from the ashes of its own, or birthing out of the ashes, reanimating, whatever you want to call it. That would just be the perfect propaganda piece for a new world order. Just saying. Plus, you got all those empty cities over there in China. Nice targets you could do there. Or, they just kick the can down the road and keep scaring people about the possibility. And, there is a real possibility that one or more nukes might be used in the Middle East, considering how things are ramping up. You can call it fake. You can call it planned. You can say the world government is working together. You could say they're not. You could say there's factions. Whatever you want to say, they're doing it. It's happening. Things are blowing up. Things are burning. And things are getting more expensive by the minute. 30 minutes covering current events like this. Yeah, well, it's not my show. It's our show. But I've been trying to plan or find a time to, get back on the Mountain High Time and kind of do more of this style, just straight headlines. But it's fun to talk with David because we bounce ideas off of each other, and that's the whole point of this show. So, yeah, let's get to this one. Denmark was ready to blow up Greenland runways if U.S. invaded. Quite silly. I doubt Denmark has the balls or the wherewithal to do anything to the United States. In fact, I believe that some agreement has already been made, and I believe that you will see Greenland be part of the United States within the next decade, if not just a territory, a protectorate, or even an empty state. Because we need it strategically. And if you're not paying attention, what's going on around the world is the redrawing of maps and the redeployment of strategic assets to make sure that they cover all of the trade routes, pipelines, Ethernet, or not Ethernet, I meant internet cables, kind of a Freudian slip. The, ocean is full of these things. And those will be the first to be attacked if there's any kind of real war. You'll know it right away because internet will be cut off between the continents, and you're not going to get any news. And even if you did get news, I'll be the first to say that these are all mainstream articles. So I don't even know if AI wrote them. They're true. They're fake. Who do you go to, finally find the last word on what something is and if it's true or false? Unfortunately, that's the time we live in. As you've seen with the AI videos, they're off the wall. They're almost to perfection. They're hard to tell from reality. Matter of fact, speaking of that, I mean, not to say I'm AI or anything, but it's real easy to manipulate sort of what people see. It happens all the time. Like I could do it just here with some old school early 2000, like graphics or filters or adjustments to contrast and color, whatever you want to call it. But look, I could just go here, right? And then I could go over here and get an echo, which is trippy. Now we'll turn that echo off. But like I'm saying, you can just switch what you're seeing. Is it real? I don't know if it's real or not. It could be fake. It could be not real. It could have been pre-recorded. It could be digitized. It could be, matter of fact, if you go back to right around 2003 to 2005, people were bragging about software where they could overlay their software in between the broadcast of a YouTube video and change the facial features of any prominent person around the world, including our leaders, their leaders, anybody. And you could make it look like, they were completely stupid or weird or lying. And now we've almost perfected the voice and video aspect of completely AI computer generated from nowhere copies of video that can be played at, anytime, any place, in any way. Anyway, back to what we were saying. I don't know how that turned out in the video, but you could really mess with stuff. But anyway, back to Denmark. What a joke! You're not going to bomb you're not going to bomb the runways. That's silly. It's just one of those headlines to catch your attention. Although I would agree things are getting quite crazy. Trump sidesteps diplomacy, and now he's asked his way. How about we just start over? Trump sidesteps diplomacy on his way to war with Iran, and now he's asking China and others to help. Is this smart? I don't know. It could be. It might be a way to have some kind of diplomacy with China and with Russia if we work out some kind of deal with Iran. But it basically looks like to, I don't know, somebody with a real low IQ and that doesn't understand things like me, that Ukraine and Iran are basically the same thing. They're the two proxy wars, reassessing trade routes, pipelines, and airspace, land management, all of that. Russia's going to get Ukraine, and they don't care what we do with Iran because they know it's a mountainous area and we could be dealing with this conflict for 20 years if they don't pull out now. Now, Trump has been saying that he wants to pull out and doesn't want to commit things, but out the other side of the White House mouth, we're talking about drafts, we're talking about deploying soldiers, we're talking about deploying assets, all kinds of things are happening in the background. So I don't think China's going to help us with Iran. I think that was a little bit silly, but at least supposedly, he reached out and asked. And, Asia may be having their own issues over there, as you've probably seen on news articles with Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, and several other countries in Southeast Asia. But it's over here in the Americas, and people forget because the headlines change. So as soon as we went to war with Iran, everybody forgot that there was an entire big debacle south of the border of us in several different countries. But if you look at the map, you can tell that in order for us to be ready for a world war, certain things have to happen. We have to have Cuba. We have to have Venezuela. We have to have control of Cuba, Panama, and the entire Central American landmass. And it looks like, some of our partners there are helping us make that a reality. We're at war. Ecuador deploys 75,000 troops, launches anti-cartel missile strikes. And remember, I said you're going to start seeing missile strikes over here in the Americas. And there we are. Now it's precedent. Colombia warns we're being bombed. So probably, most likely, since you're not getting much news, we're probably, striking assets in Venezuela, Colombia, and we're helping our partners by striking stuff in there. Because as far as I know, none of these countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, Belize, or Ecuador, any of them have the capability to, send up drones with missiles or offensive aircraft that have missiles. It says on Sunday, Ecuador launched a massive anti-cartel, if I could speak, anti-cartel. It's anti-cars too, because they burn them and blow them up whenever they were attacking, as you saw. Anyway, anti-cartel offensive involving 75,000 troops, armored vehicles, helicopters, with the support of the U.S. in what Interior Minister John Reinberg described as a very strong offensive. So yes, we are at war in the Americas, in the Western Hemisphere, going on in several countries. Now, the question is, well, will it blow back? Will it come up to the border? Will it start crossing? And is that why we're getting people used to the idea of drone strikes in the United States? Because it's very doubtful that Iran could possibly launch drone strikes here, but it is possible. But it's more likely that some of their partners in crime, so to speak, could arrange for something like that to happen over here in North America. And, then everybody will act like they got their socks blown off and surprise, but it's not really a surprise. Trump hijacks Alex Jones' greatest prediction, claims he foretold Osama bin Laden attacking the World Trade Center. And to make an article real short, no, he didn't. He didn't do that. As far as I know, the only people that actually accurately predicted 9/11 were Alex Jones and Bill Cooper, which I don't think they got along. Both of them thought the other one was Intel. So there's a whole thing with that. Anyway, cascades of AI fakes about the war in Iran causes chaos online. And let's look at this bigger because I want to show you. So all over the place, on every media platform, in every social media environment. There's just an onslaught of AI videos. There you see ones hitting the Dome on the Rock. There's the tallest building in the world getting hit. Some of them are real, some of them are fake, some of them are obvious. But the problem is then when it gets down to when you're trying to figure out what's real or not, in about 2 years, I'll say, because it took 2 years to get better to this extent, you're going to see stuff that you just can't tell what is. It's going to be grainy video. They're going to say this happened somewhere in the world, and you need to believe it. And there's just tons of it. There's nonstop. And it gets mixed in there with the real ones. And that's why a couple of years ago, I told you and predicted, not like Nostradamus, but like obvious, a Nostra obvious, that you weren't going to be able to believe anything you see, read, or hear, literally. If you see it with your own eyes, it's very possible to be manipulated on what you saw in real life. Anyway, Donald Trump warns NATO faces very bad future if allies fail to help. If you haven't heard, a lot of the countries are saying, hey, we don't want to get involved in this. The problem is they've been crying about Russia this whole time, wanting the United States to supply and pay for everything. And that's what it's been really for the last 20 years. You can get into blaming different groups that supposedly that they're controlling us or not controlling us. But the fact is that the American people have been getting raped and robbed for 20 years. We pay for everything. We pay for all the wars everywhere. We pay for, aid. We pay for really weird programs I'm not going to get into on our family-friendly show here, but some really out there, off the wall, I would say demonic even things that we're paying money for, and we pay for it. We are the ones that pay for it. And then, of course, the internet, the entire internet, and probably everybody at home has doomer fatigue. Am I being a doomer right now by showing you articles out there? The mysterious financial repo markets, the wars, the equity, everything. It's all like doom, 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 doom. Makes you just want to go outside and plant a garden or something. But unfortunately for us, we can't just, put our head in the sand, so to speak, like an ostrich. Unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with this at some point in the future, the way the world's changing. The way AI and government intrusiveness is at every corner, at every venue, at every topic, at every group. It's all being affected. Israel expects Iran war to continue at least till April. Lebanon conflict even longer. And as I told you a couple of weeks ago, that the administration here had already planned and said and admitted that they planned on this war in Iran at least until September. And now, of course, people everywhere are saying that and admitting that. September is supposedly the end of it. But you know what happens in September is 9/11. So maybe it won't end in 9/11 in September. I don't know. I'm just saying. A U.S. citizen now runs Mexico's top drug cartel, and its targeting is complicated. And I'm not even going to read this this article. Excuse me. The reason for that is because I already know the United States has no qualms or no problems killing American citizens. If you don't remember this guy called Anwar al-Awlaki and a 16-year-old son, who supposedly was the connection to all of the famous terror attacks that you could remember, the shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, the Times Square bomber. They all had this weird PTEN explosive only created and supplied by the U.S. military. But anyway, that guy used to go and, have lunch at the Pentagon and stuff. But when he moved overseas, we decided that he was a terror threat. Anwar al-Awlaki, you might remember him. Obama extrajudiciously executed him with a drone strike, despite him being an American citizen, and then killed his 16-year-old son, also an American citizen. So you could argue that those people, might have been good targets, or we needed to take out those targets. You can argue whatever you want, but the fact remains he was a U.S. citizen, and they extrajudicially killed him. So, of course, they can do it again if they want to. So, really, there is no, complication and targeting this guy that now runs the cartel down there, because it's all whether or not they just want to, or the time's right, or they're going to do it or not. That's what it really, hinges on, is do we want to do it? And like I said a couple of weeks ago too, there is an army building of Kurds because they want to make a new Kurdish country pop up on the map, and that country will be part of Iraq. It will be part of Turkey, even though they don't like it and they're not for it, but it's going to happen. It'll be northern Iran. All of that little area is going to be, Turkestan or Kurdistan, not Kurdistan, Kurdistan, whatever they're going to name it. But I don't think it's going to be over by September, folks. It's all been lined up for 20 years to re-implement what we had going on in 2001. Exclusive U.S. weighs military reinforcement as Iran war enters possible new phase. That new phase being U.S. troops on the ground, despite, people saying we're not going to do that, or you're just a doomer. You're a, what was it? Panicking. They were calling people. There's, if you don't know, in social media, there's this entire fight on one side of the aisle about whether or not we should be intermingled in foreign affairs. I'll just leave it at that. President Donald Trump's administration considering deploying thousands of U.S. troops and reinforcements in its operation to the Middle East as the U.S. prepares for a possible next step in its campaign against Iran, said U.S. official, and 3 people familiar with the matter. Oh, well, as long as they're familiar with it. Trump attempts to distance U.S. from Israel strikes on key Iranian gas field. And the reason for that is because he didn't realize, or we didn't realize, or we don't want to admit that we realized that obviously the first targets in this expanded war, that if I can talk tonight, this expanded war is going to be all the gasoline, petroleum, natural gas infrastructure. Of course, which is going to make everything skyrocket in price, which it already is. It went from like $2, I forget, like $2.17 here, all the way up to $4 in just a matter of a week. Armageddon scenario for gas markets as Qatar hit by missiles. Oopsies. And then, Israel says it's going to hold off on striking key Iran natural, gas fields now that they already blown up most of it, or some of it, or whatever. But it would be probably smart if we just stopped all of that. And then here, right in our own backyard, again, in the Caribbean, 2 shipments of Russian oil and gas head to Cuba in defiance of U.S. So are we going to have another Cuban missile crisis, but this time over, supplying that nation with gas? Because from what I hear, Cuba, they want to negotiate with the United States now, all of a sudden. So it'll be like a war without a bullet fired. But then again, if they get backing from Russia, they may decide, you know what? Nah, thanks, U.S. We changed our mind. We don't want to do that. Over in Iran, F-35 hit, makes emergency landing. The question is, why are we using these junky F-35s when we have the FY-22 Raptor? Or the, you can ask the pilots, hey, what's that there? Oh, maybe. Oh, I thought this was one of ours. Maybe it's not. Anyway, why are we using these F-35s? Why are they using the F-35s? Well, there might be a little secret behind that in the way that we sold everybody around the world the F-35s, the junk plane. It doesn't compete with the FY-22. I'm sorry. There's just no comparison. You can ask the pilots, the mechanics. They're supposed to be similar planes, but they're just not. What U.S. Marines can do to help reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Why are they whores? I don't understand this. I don't understand why are they whores. The Hormuz. I'm just kidding. I didn't mean to silly up the civilization cycle. I'll cut it out. Marine Corps unite. Expect to arrive in the Middle East next week. Could help seize Iran's strategically important islands near the strait. We want the strait. We want the oil and gas fields. We need to control all of that. Otherwise, we're going to have problems. But thank God, China will not invade Taiwan in 2027, according to us. Now, there's been some kind of mystery over in Taiwan recently when all the planes stopped buzzing Taiwan. So everybody's kind of curious what the Chinese are up to over there. Are they going to invade? Or are they going to, fake an invasion? Or are they going to put their military might over in the Strait of Hormuz just to be there to slow everything down and cause the prices to skyrocket? Who knows? Trump's handpicked panel votes to put his face on U.S. gold coin. This is what it's going to look like. You're going to buy some of these gold coins here. 1776 to 2026. 150 years of America. We got Trump. I think that's the you're fired pose right there. Right? You're fired. I hope he's not talking to the American people. Anyway, scientists turn mosquitoes into vaccination tool to immune bats against rabies. What could go wrong? I don't know. You notice that whenever these outbreaks always happen, mosquitoes, bats, and that other word always seem to be involved. Mosquitoes typically spread disease rather than prevent it, but Chinese scientists, along with Bill Gates, don't forget Bill Gates, have proposed using insects as unlikely vector to deliver the medicines to the bats. And, we're over here having problems with bat viruses, allegedly, And if you remember some of the weirdest outbreaks possible, strangest things come out of caves and are blamed on bats, like some kinds of weird hemorrhagic fevers that popped up, similar to Ebola in Africa, came right out of a cave. They didn't know where it came from. It got a couple people sick. They bled to death, died horribly. And then a few decades later, it happened again in the same cave. So they just blame the bats or some kind of bacteria in the bats. So we probably shouldn't be messing with the genetics of bats. I'm just saying. Last time, it seems like somebody may or may not have spliced genes relating to the bat. There were problems. Anyway, I'm just saying, if it's a bat medicine, who's to stop the mosquitoes from giving that same medicine to all of the other animals, including human beings? I'm just saying. I don't know. It probably is not a good idea. Can scientists really resurrect the dodo? I think they can, and they probably already have. That's what's killing me, because if you know anything about these fields of science, in places like China and Russia, they're not following rules, and I don't think they're following the rules here. So when they say, can we do something, I believe they've already done it. In fact, we've already created a form of wolf that's like a hybrid of a wolf and a dire wolf, and they have plans on all of these Pleistocene Ice Age animals, for whatever reason, to bring them back, rewild things, maybe move the humans away from there because of global warming and whatnot. Excuse me. $166 a barrel. Middle East oil gives clue to where all prices could be heading if Iran war drags on. Well, no way. It's not like your eggs and your beef and your food and your gasoline and everything's going to go up and your heating. No way. Maybe they'll fix it. Here's a good idea. Why don't you go get your nose swabbed so you can get the first clues if Alzheimer's is going to affect you? Old timers, Alzheimer's, whatever you want to call it. I'm just saying, recently in the past, there may or may not have been some unnecessary swabbing of the blood-brain barrier. But, if you want to know if you're going to get Alzheimer's, supposedly you can go, and this nasal swab might one day help detect dementia earlier. In a nutshell, Duke University researchers found that brief, minimal, invasive nasal brush biopsy can detect Alzheimer's linked immune and neurological changes before any memory of cognitive symptoms appear. If you don't get it from getting stabbed in your blood-brain barrier from a large Q-tip. But I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't understand these things, low IQ and whatnot. Anyway, is global warming coming this year? I think it might be. I've been farming for over 50 years. There's no global warming. It's colder. Well, according to the mainstream, sir or ma'am, you're wrong. The earth is burning. I'll go ahead and accept cookies. I like cookies. Phoenix tops out 102 degrees for the city's hottest March day on record. Whoa! That's scary. Is it though? They really had temperature thermometers, out there everywhere in the desert and stuff? Probably not. I don't think so. Anyway, historic heat wave tied March U.S. high may set monthly records in over 140 cities from California to Missouri. It's burning up out there. This isn't no ordinary heat wave. Many locations could set new all-time March, even April record highs from West Coast into the plains. And this will have one other impact that could linger into summer. I know. Tell that to the people that are freezing right now. Well, that's not what they want you to pay attention to right now. We want to pay attention to record-shattering March scorchers. 70 million to bake in summer-like heat dome into the weekend. And then it'll probably get cold like it usually does around Easter in the Southwest. I don't know. You think they might set some record cold records? Maybe not. Hey, check this out. Zorro Ranch DNA horror in the desert. But we're not going to talk about that because they're not going to find nothing, because in 2019, as I showed you on a previous show, they already cleaned up that property quite good. A lot of construction, a lot of stuff happened there. Nobody knows. Oh, here it is. Look at this. Newly elected mayor dies after collapsing mid-speech as fellow mayor performs CPR. Nampa Mayor Rick Hogaboam suffered a medical emergency around 6:45 p.m. on Wednesday evening, according to Idaho News. Hogaboam was in mid-speech when he suddenly collapsed, sparking chaos during the Treasure Valley Partnership Town Hall meeting. Now, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I might think somebody changed one little political spot in order to achieve a bigger agenda. I'm just joking. That never happens. That's only in storybooks. This guy's probably not that important, and that wouldn't happen. Anyway, fire crews and medics rushed to the scene, but sadly, they were unavailable to revive the politician. He got 62% of the vote, defeating his rivals and becoming Napa's 31st mayor in the process. That's a hell of a name, I know. This is probably just some heart attack or medical emergency, but like I said, younger and younger people seemingly are having, medical emergencies early. Young people, for no apparent reason, are just getting a bunch of butt cancer, and people having heart attacks, strokes, all kinds of stuff. It's weird. Sign of the time. It might be because of the global warming. It could be, but I doubt it. Den of sin inside the last refuge ranch with buried bodies and celeb guests, all full-scale horror and yet to be revealed, because it's not going to be revealed. It's a joke. Here's a light note that I thought was really cool. I saw this on Twitter, but it's an experiment where let me make this big full screen here so you can see kind of the picture. These scientists wanted to know what would happen if they just took one of these little hamster wheels and put it out in the forest. And what happened was kind of amazing, really. Mice, all kinds of stuff, started using the wheel for no other reason, it seems, than to have a good time. Look at that. They even have a slug, a rat, a shrew, a frog, and a snail, but mostly mice, found this thing and just started having a ball with it. But as for us humans, we have no jobs. Looks like I opened up the same thing twice. And here's a cool article right here I thought you might like. The story of man keeps changing. New evidence in Europe, China, and other places are pushing Homo sapien and man of various different kinds back further and further in history, meaning that this planet could have been doing all kinds of different things and had several epics, maybe even technological ones, before we even came around. 1.9 million year old site rewrites the story of humans' first migration. New research is reshaping the timeline of one of the world's most important prehistoric sites. Scientists have discovered that archaeological site of Abadia, Ubidia, I don't know, in the Jordan Valley is at least 1.9 million years old. This pushes back the timeline for early human activity in the region by hundreds of thousands of years. The finding places Daya alongside Demacy in Georgia as one of the earliest known locations showing human presence outside Africa, except for, they keep finding new stuff, new tools, new DNA, all kinds of stuff like that here. And here's the question that's really on everyone's mind if you have children, right? Is there going to be a draft? Are they going to draft your kid for a war that you might not even agree with? And even if you did agree with it, do you agree with past generations that might call said children, basically, cowards or unpatriotic or some nonsense because they don't want to go to war with a foreign country for reasons they don't understand, that's probably not true, and die? Why do they need to die if they don't want to? Now, if you feel patriotic and you want to go get some combat experience, then by all means, go sign up. No disrespect from here. Do what you got to do if you believe in it. But what happens when you don't believe in it and they just pass legislation to steal your children, just like they pass legislation to steal your money, to steal your inheritance, to steal your future, to steal your national resources? Because they continually do it. And seemingly, they don't care what you think. And as long as enough lemmings are willing to jump off the cliff, they expect, your kids to go jump off with them. Just my opinion. I don't believe in a draft. I think that if your war is worth fighting, you don't need to draft people. People will fight it. Say they decided that some kind of ideology exists somewhere in the world where it didn't matter where it was, we had to go to war. Remember how they tried to pull with communism? But they didn't really do that. They let communism go in some places, and other places we acted like we were the heroes stopping the communism. We rescue people when they need to be refugees. Unless they need to be refugees, then we kind of say, no, you can't come in. But if you have no reason to be a refugee, come right in. That's the way it's been for a long time. Now, you might know that they reworded the draft recently to include everyone from the age of 18 to the age of 26, despite their gender, despite their origin. If they're here in the United States, they're subject to be drafted. Now, if you wanted to draft millions of people, you think you would still deport up to 30 to 40 million people illegally in your country? Or would you leave the core of those military age men, mostly, to linger and be eligible for the draft? Then possibly send them back to their countries of origin under the guise of the U.S. military in a world war, or maybe overseas. Who knows? All I know is a measure passed by the House of Representatives in 2024 automatically registered men aged 18 to 26 for selective service. So the dudes don't get a chance. But if you really get in there and read what it really says all people 18 to 26. They don't word it as females, but if they get their way and change it to do that, are you willing to not only send your sons, but your daughters also over to fight in another country for reasons that really might not affect you here at home? I don't know. I guess that's up for you guys to decide. Matter of fact, let's go in the chat since we got a few minutes before the break and see what that looks like. I'll just show it on the stream here. So, what do you, oh, you can't even see it. What's going on there? Sorry, I was looking at that. I guess I'll show it a different way. So, fast track to citizenship. That could be one way. I don't have a problem with that. If you want to become an American citizen and you decide that you want to go earn that for whatever campaign or conflict we have going on, you go right ahead. That's willing. That's voluntary. I have no problem with that. Back in the 70s, all magazines said we were winning the Vietnam War. Everything was great. Sure. For the baby eating government. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if the government eats babies. But when you take them from their home and send them over to the meat grinder, what's the difference? You guys got any questions in the chat there? The Black Sabbath, yeah. Yeah. No questions. You guys all quieted up when I asked you something there. That's all right. What is this? I think we'll end the hour with this. Notorious late term person that specialized in the dismemberment of certain things dies of cancer. What were you guys saying about, would you be willing to give over your children for this? People are doing it for nothing. I'm just saying. It's literally nothing. People are doing it for nothing. The Nellis days. Loving the show. All right, thanks. Continue, no questions. How long before AI kills all of us? I don't think it's going to kill anybody without you volunteering for it, unless it comes in the form of something flying, walking, or driving, or crawling across the ground with weapons, which is very possible in the near future. Anyway. We all got to die someday, I guess. So I ain't going to say nothing about that. Anyway, France prepares mission to open the Strait of Hormuz as oil prices surge. This week in World War III. That's really all that's out there right now. So the whole thing is clogged up with a world at war. Iran conflict goes global. But we already knew that, didn't we? 10 days into President Trump's Iran campaign, the war has gone global. It says at least 30 countries are now military involved, shooting, shielding, and quietly supplying, while a widening energy shock punishes nations far from the front lines. Why it matters. This isn't World War III, but it may be the closest we've come in decades, drawing in more countries, more great powers, and more overlapping conflicts than any crisis since the Cold War. But I thought the Cold War just ended a few decades ago, which, from what I hear in intel circles, they already called the Third World War. So if we went into an actual world conflict that you could see from every corner of the earth, that would be World War IV. And it's not being fought with sticks and stones. It's being fought with AI and robots. So it might be the fifth war that's fought with sticks and stones, as the saying goes. It says Iran has struck at least 10 countries. Since the war began, hitting U.S. and Israeli bases, Persian Gulf capitals, oil infrastructure, and civilian areas in an attempt to oppose maximum pain, Washington and its allies says. We're doing the same thing, by the way. Iran effectively closed the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow choke point, which 20% of the world's oil flows, sending prices for oil, gas, plastics, fertilizer, food, everything skyrocketing. It could stop next week, though. Probably not. Anyway, let's see here. Both the AI experts are in favor of depopulation. That's true. Everybody wants to depopulate, and we'll get in that to a minute in the second hour. Really, there's basically an idea out there that we don't actually need any kind of giant war. That's just to hurry things up if you believe that there are people that are trying to hasten the population decline faster than it's naturally plateauing. But it is indeed plateauing. It was going to plateau without various different factors that we talk about today. One of those is just an aging population. When every population grows, those people don't disappear. They just become old. And then all of a sudden, big swaths of certain years of birth disappear because right around the same time, a bunch of people die. And that was already going to happen regardless of the other factors like war, famine, medicine, and fertility problems, or even birth rate problems that have nothing to do with fertility, but more are social problems. It's obvious the YouTube chat is persona non grata. Oh, okay. See, unfortunately for me, I don't know which YouTube channel you're actually talking to me on because we're live on Mountain High Time and Civilization Cycle, along with various other outlets. So I do see anybody that's chatting in the chat line, including you guys from Rumble. If you guys chat, I get to see that, but I don't really know which room you're in. So no way to tell exactly what you're talking about unless you're specific. Same thing, not at all. Such overwhelming odds with toys and Injinki? I can't see there. Injingi? How do you say that? I'm not familiar with that word. We have to stop everything. I already forgot how you spelled it. What is it? E-I-N-G-Y. The hell is that? Toe socks. What? Must not be the right word. Anyway. You saw Pantera in a club in Dallas in 1985 while I was working there. Dimebag made that show impossible to forget. I have no idea what you're talking about. Speak English, people. You can speak Spanish or whatever you want. It's a free chat room. Yo sabes todo español, pero nada fácil. I don't understand it all. It's hard, man. And then I have... What? Wow, got your attention first time I can remember. Well, I'm reading everybody and I'm not talking with somebody, so that's why I can look at the chat room. Pantera. Anyway, let's go to break and we'll come back and talk about some more Doomer Fatigue right here on Civilization Cycle. And if you want to help the channel, let's see here. You can check this out. You can go right there and get our Civilization Cycle podcast live notes at www.civilizationcycle.com. Or you can click on this QR code right here. Put that over there so you can see it. And David tries to send those out. I think he's got a couple of email lists, but he tries to give you quick notes about stuff we talked about in the show. And if you'd like to help the show, Civilization Cycle, you can help us out right there by clicking or scanning or whatever the robots do these days, that QR code right there. Or you can click the link in the description box. Por favor. Help the show out. Anyway, see you in about 4 minutes.
Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom and organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All their seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic, heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out trueleafmarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast. Product you love, the 72-hour emergency food kit from My Patriot Supply. Not only emergency food, but camping food, and you can prepare that through the week as well. 20 delicious just add water meals. Think about creamy mac and cheese, hearty chili, sweet oatmeal. 2,000 calories a day. You need the calories. You're going to need to think and move. And the mashed potatoes, easier to make than oats, and you can add your own flavors. Goes with anything. For less than a couple of takeout meals at a fast food restaurant, get real peace of mind. And a real question to ask, how long could your family eat without leaving home? My Patriot Supply, click on that link in the description box below. It helps the channel. Truth is hard to say and hard to hear. Most people choose silence. We choose to speak. Your support of our sponsor keeps the Civilization Cycle podcast on air and giving us the courage to keep digging. That link's in the description box below. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts, Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And all right, back from the break here. The computer has been glitching out here, though. Seems like I'm entering the Matrix. No, for real, though. Something was freezing here, and I couldn't figure out why. It might be because nothing's real and I'm an AI. Don't worry about it. Everything will be okay. Anyway, I was going to let you guys watch a music video real quick because I have to do something. And it just timed the wrong time, so I got to go deal with it. So let me add this video here. If it's still there. Yeah, here it is. All right.
Guess I'll just close my eyes.
I know the end is. I know the end is. I know the end is. I know the end is coming soon. I know the end is coming soon. I know the end is. I know the end is. I know the end is coming soon. soon. I know the end is coming soon. I see the fading moon rising. I know the end is coming soon. I see the fading moon rising. I know the end is coming soon. I see the fading moon rising. I know the end is coming soon. I see the fading earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today. I see the bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I know the end is coming soon. I see the bad moon rising. I know the end is. I know the end is. I know the end is coming soon.
Yeah, well, the end probably ain't coming. At least not to everybody. Not to me, not to you. But we all have an end. Anyway. I made that back in 2015. But what's trippy is some of that stuff did happen. You never know what's going to happen just around the corner while everyone renegotiates around the world what we're doing. And let's get back into that and some trippy news that there is out there. Why is that not there? There we go. Excellent. Some of the strangest stuff has been going on. Some of the strangest ideas to date that I've ever seen. Some of the crazy stuff. You know, kind of like when Bill Gates decided that he wanted to spray a bunch of sulfur particles and other people, other ideas to dim the sun and all this, which I think is really just some kind of scam. So at some point in time, they can take credit for the planet actually starting to cool colder than it had been over the last little warm period that we've had. And I mean longer than just, since the 1800s, but warmer, period in the grand scheme of things, longer than that. So here's another one of the crazy schemes and ideas that just probably shouldn't be done, but then again, they might do it. A big night light in the sky. Startup wants to launch a space mirror. The company is seeking FCC approval to test an idea to reflect sunlight to the Earth at night, possibly powering solar panels. Critics say it could be bad for wildlife. Well, you think to create an area on Earth that never turns nighttime, of course it'll be bad for nighttime. But also, they're not the only ones trying to do these things. And if you can imagine a light being beamed down to the planet, then it's not that far-fetched to realize that they could beam other stuff down to the planet, right? Like lasers or even dropping mass in some form or another down to the Earth. These are all ideas and things that are very possible when you have access to space and satellites and things like that. A startup company wants to light up the night with 50,000 big mirrors orbiting Earth, bouncing sunlight to the night side of the planet to power solar farms after sunset, providing light for rescue workers. Now, there's only one out of any of the ideas. But it seems fairly obvious that we already can create enough light for situations like rescue work and things like that. They even want to illuminate city streets, among other things. So what do you think this is going to do for the temperature in the nighttime in the areas where they're beaming down concentrated sunlight to light up an area of the Earth? Do you think that might at all interfere or have some kind of effect on the overall temperature in said area? Just a question. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or nothing. All right. I love when the buttons get stuck. There we go. Yeah, let's see what's going on over here. What do you guys think? Do we need giant mirrors, showing us sunlight all night? The mirror, it's good until it fries swaths of the ground uncontrollably. Yeah, of course. I don't think that they can concentrate quite sunlight exactly like that yet. But we have other ways to do that, which is technological based. And somebody was saying something about Jim Carrey wearing a Jim Carrey mask. Let me tell you what I think happened with that. So there's a weird conspiracy theory that Jim Carrey, either got replaced or changed or something happened to him. And this is mostly based on his eye color. Now, really what I think happened is the guy went and got a bunch of Botox. His face is all swole. It's swelled up. And the lighting, they have all these bright lights in his eyes. Now, generally, watch this. If I scoot back out of the light, my eyes appear to be dark brown. But if I go up closer, like up here, you can see that they're actually green. All right, watch it. Look, they're green and they have brown spots in them. Watch this. I'll just do this to demonstrate. Here we go. Look at that. See? So when you put the light in them, they get quite light colored. But I think that's all that's going on with Jim Carrey, man. What are you guys looking at? I'm just kidding. Anyway. Yeah, I don't think they replaced him. I think it was just that the light was showing his eyes literally with more light in it. And then you got to see what color his eyes actually are, which is like a light green or light brown color. And I have olive green eyes with big brown stars in the middle of them. So like a lot of people think I have dark eyes. And then at other times they think I have light eyes. It's because it all depends on the direction of the light shining and refracting out of your eyeballs. No. Jim Carrey's irrelevant. But, they have some really cool masks. Actually, I have one over there. It's like a silicone mask that'll make you look like anything. And that goes back to what we were talking about before. You cannot believe anything you see. There are realistic masks. Believe me, I have one. I don't know exactly like right where it's at right now, or I'd just get it out and put it on for you. But it looks real. It makes you look like a different person. I got a cheaper one. So there's way better masks than that. And you can bet that the intel agencies are using these. They're on video. They can make something look like it happened that didn't happen, no problem. And then with the aid of AI, it's getting really scary out there. Which, let's start talking about stuff like that. RoboCop is the world's first robot arrest. Bizarre moment. Humanoid is detained by police after harassing elderly woman. So let's it's not this soccer game here. Let me reload this here. I think we can show it here if I mute it. We don't need the sound. Let me make it bigger. Stop. I am the police. I will arrest you. Yeah, RoboCop's going to be a real thing, man. That was just a little goofy thing. But yeah, this is literally a robot out here harassing someone that was doing a bad thing. And what's funny about it, with the algorithms and the Dragonfly software over there, you could see that it could tell who you are. So you're not going to get away. It already has identified you. You might be able to fight the little robot or run from it. But have you seen those big balls that they have that just come out and start shooting lightning bolts at you, basically tasering and throwing a net over you? Things are getting really, really weird. And here's some of that right here. OpenAI's bid to allow X-rated talk is freaking out its own advisors. Warning surfaced that company risks creating a sexy suicide coach if it begins allowing sexual explicit chats. So basically, this is just another layer of AI manipulating. I'm not going to say soft-minded people, but kind of, I think that's what it's going to be at first. In January, OpenAI's hand-picked council of advisors on well-being and AI met with the company's representatives for an update about the controversial new feature called adult mode. And if you've seen any of the sci-fis, they kind of joke about that in there, about turning your sex robot or your housekeeper robot into adult mode and then becoming the sex robot. And weirdly, they're going to entice millions of people with these ideas to allow these robotic entities into their home. And they're not always going to be these little cute robots. They're going to keep advancing along with the AI and the technology until it's really having androids up in your house. And they already named your phone an Android. So you've been used to that for decades now, citing that they need to treat adult users like adults. OpenAI chief Executive Sam Altman had last year floated the idea of enabling erotic conversations in the Chat GPT. And we all know that they started, different companies talking to kids and doing weird stuff, talking people into doing stuff they don't want to do and getting rid of their self. It's very alarming. Not only that, just trusting the transition of the human controlled world over to an AI robotic controlled world. And then what do you do when everything is all the way that way? When everything is forced upon you, like the transit system, your cars, everything, you're forced to deal with it. Trapped inside a self-driving car during an anti-robot attack. In San Francisco, some passengers of an autonomous taxis have been experiencing unexpected hazards, being stuck in the vehicle when the cars are assaulted. In January, and these are the anti-robot people. In January, Doug Fulop, that's not real, was riding home from a night in San Francisco when a man crossed the street in front of his car, doubled back, and then began screaming at him. The man punched the car's windows and tried lifting up the vehicle. He then yelled that he wanted to kill Mr. Fulop and the other two passengers for giving money to a robot. Now, ironically, we've kind of seen this in movies, but not in this way where people are mad at you because you're riding in the robot or enjoying the technology. But if you go back and watch some of these older sci-fis from the 90s and the 80s, they always portrayed the future where the rich and the entitled are driving around in these armored AI vehicles completely protected, while the poor, the hungry, and the plebeians throw stuff at their cars and are stuck outside. It's like a Hunger Games scenario unfolding right in front of you, except for a bunch of rich twits with fancy makeup. They're tech billionaires and elites hiding off in their armored mansions and stuff at the corners of the world. Here it is. Robot goes berserk in California restaurant, dragged away by staffers after smashing the table. This is how the Terminator timeline actually begins, not with the bang, but with the boogie. And look at the little robot. It looks really friendly, and it started spazzing out. I'm going to put that big full screen for you there. Somebody was saying something about Terminator a minute ago in the chat. Humanoid robots are rapidly gaining hype from battlefields to the factory floor, but there are clear growing pains when it comes to sharing spaces with our new automaton friends. Just this month, a video circulated online showing a robot being escorted away by cops after startling an old lady. Maybe that was that article. I might have read it wrong. Now a different robot appears to have gotten carried away while performing a dance routine at the Hot Pot restaurant in San Jose, California. A video on social media shows the dancing robot knocking over the table, smashing plates, and sending chopsticks flying everywhere. An orange apron, and the robot is wearing reads, "I'm good," in big letters across the front, perfectly adding to the chaotic scene. Staffers at the restaurant were forced to intervene. One employee can be seen holding the robot by the scruff of its neck while navigating her phone, presumably searching for the bot's app and controls. In the end, it took 3 workers to restrain the robot, which is a little goofy robot, who were all forced to duck periodically to avoid being smacked by its waving and sauce-covered hands. Let's watch it. Let's go there. Let's do it. Well, that was funny. I mean, here, let's play this again. I just like how it's flailing around and people are like deer in the headlights with it. Let's watch it again. Let's watch it again. Let me put it full screen. Or did it? Oh. Ha, thanks, Anna. Yes, I was muted. I just told you a whole story about how, I don't know, how long was I muted? Put the phone down. Yeah, well, there's sound now. Excuse moi. Can you hear me now? But the club wasn't fun. Hopefully, I'm not muted now, right? Right. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know where I muted myself, but just think about it. Robots are going nuts. And if you're stuck in one of the cars, which this is a story about one of those, they're talking about how, they were just driving down the road doing their normal thing when all of a sudden their car went berserk and crashed. And, they're stuck carless without a matter of fact, oh my, we could just do this. Look, this is fancy. Hold on. Is it not going to work? Or did I mute it? Man, the AI don't even work when you want it to. Yeah, put down the phone and deal with your robot bashing your customers' faces. I was trying to see what the AI was going to sound like here, but it didn't want me to listen for some reason. It froze up. Anyway, the robots are getting out of control and they're taking all kinds of aspects of life. And even though people don't want it to be there, they don't want to deal with it. It's still happening. Have you seen the Tesla trucks driving everywhere? They're all out there, and who really is to blame, or who gets held accountable when an 18-wheeler robot spazzes out like that robot in the restaurant and starts driving over people, or a police robot starts spazzing out and it's armed with a weapon? ChatGPT was asked the same question 10 times. The answer kept changing. That's because it hallucinates and it's programmed with biases and all kinds of woke programming and all kinds of different bizarre anthropological, political, and other mistruths. But on top of that, it can't even get its story straight. ChatGPT can sound convincing, but the study shows it still struggles to tell what's actually true. Washington State University professor Musit Sikik, I don't know, and his team repeatedly evaluated ChatGPT by giving it hypotheses drawn from scientific studies. The AI was asked to decide whether each statement was supported by research, essentially judging if it was true or false. In total, the researchers tested more than 700 hypotheses and submitted each of them 10 times to examine the consistent responses would be, how consistent they would be, and they weren't. They were not. You're definitely not going to be a party. Yeah, I'm trying not to be a party. We're all trying not to be a party. The problem is when the party makes you join. Doesn't give you a choice because you have to take part in the financial system in order to pay rent, to pay bills, to buy food, to transportation, all of that. Unless you just start being a wild man, which may be a choice that people can make. Please do not resurrect Val Kilmer. Did you know they're going to make a new movie starring Val Kilmer, who already died of throat cancer at the age of 65? The Top Gun and Heat star, who died last year at the age of 65, will reportedly return in the big screen via AI tech. Can we take a minute? Isn't that bizarre that, if you watch that movie, I think it's called Bright on Netflix, that movie was written and directed by AI, starring real actors, but now they don't even need the actors to do anything. Everything can be completely fake, completely generated. And if you think they can't make a blockbuster movie, but they can't fake the news, I got some oceanfront property out here in New Mexico to sell you. It's right out my backyard. I see boats there all the time. There must be a beach somewhere. Actually, we do have a beach. We just don't have oceanfront. Lots of sand, no water. Would you go watch this movie? Completely fake with no. It's literally with no soul. It may have somewhat of a copied essence, but it's never going to be like the real person acting or emoting or doing any of that. It's just trippy for a little while. But what happens when we get tired of the fakeness? Are they going to be able to elevate it to a point where it's indistinguishable from reality? And I think, well, the answer is yes already. I mean, if I can do stuff like this simple, imagine what an algorithm could do if it wants to, in making fake content for fake situations with fake emotions and fake, opinions about things, and then get people to believe in it and think it's real, and even change them. And I read another article the other day that was talking about how AI can slowly change your opinion. If you keep reading things, it keeps giving you new facts, it keeps giving you supposed facts, like this article was talking about there, not necessarily facts, but it's out there changing millions of people's minds. It's just like the people that are on X and different things, they're asking Grok every 5 seconds if something is real. I've done it myself, but you can't count on that to be a reality. I've argued with it about anthropology. Matter of fact, I was going to make a video about an argument I had with it, talking about the evolution of the skull, or modern humans, modern anatomical humans, and where they begin in the fossil records. And it'll tell me that it began in Africa. And then I show it a picture of the exact thing it's talking about, and it identifies that as not human, but a Neanderthal, meaning that it doesn't know what it's talking about whatsoever. Uh, and meanwhile, well, everything's fake. You got all this fraud going on everywhere in every state. Fake healthcare, fake hospice, fake schools, fake everything. They're just shipping the money away. Like I was talking about earlier, for the last 20 years, the United States has been raped and robbed. You have to pay for everything. You got to pay for NATO. You got to pay for the UN. You got to pay for all of these, feed the countries of the world while opening your borders to allowing them to come in, and then giving more and more people things that were meant for your descendants. But people are deciding not to have descendants now. So I guess that's the way they want to go. Here's a study that might, fit into that. Study showing common pesticide crossed placenta should have been triggered alarms, but instead they buried it. What a surprise. Not a surprise. Not really. Researchers at the University of Sherbrooke Hospital in Montreal, Canada, measured traces of industrial agrochemicals, if I could talk right, in the blood of pregnant women and the unborn babies. They found 93% of pregnant women's bloods contained cry1AB, crybaby. Did I read that? Crybaby, cryab. Anyway, yeah, that's bad. It's produced inside of corn, a certain kind of corn. And 80% of fetal cord blood was also contaminated. But I'm sure that doesn't matter. What really matters is what's blowing up all over the world. Qatar's largest LNG hub damaged in the Iran retaliation after U.S. Israeli strikes on the Ayatollah's energy assets. In other words, we're blowing up all kinds of stuff. Where are all the greenies? Where's Greta? Greta Thunberg. I saw her the other day, arguing that nations do need oil, because she was crying that the poor Cubans don't have any oil to run their economy. They don't have any oil to run their machines, to produce electricity, to do anything. So it's weird that Greta Thunberg admitted that we need fossil fuels to survive. Now, on a more serious note, last week or the week before, I can't remember what it was, I showed an article that was showing how Canada had already reached its 100,000 people that they helped leave the planet, if you know what I mean. Canada now offering same-day assisted planet. What's a good word for that? I mean, I can't really say what it says. So they're helping people every day leave the world to go wherever they're going. With one elderly woman who changed her mind, they made her leave anyway. Canada has performed thousands of same-day assisted off-world transportation. As it was revealed, one elderly woman was transported despite withdrawing her request the day before. The Medical Assistance Program, MAID program, was approved in 2016. You know why it's called MAID? Because it's cleaning up the population. They're just cleaning it up. I'm sorry. Is it too dark? Maybe I should back off. But it's crazy that a World War II program, for all intents and purposes. I know everybody's screaming about, the Nazis, about them saying bad things about stuff on the internet. But when it comes down to actual practice of programs that are similar, all these countries are engaging in one of those programs, and that would be, off-world transportation of people, whether they want it or not. And they got plenty of reasons now. If you feel like you're dumb, or you're a drug addict, or you got Down syndrome, or you're too old, or you're too slow, or you're too heavy, or you ain't got no friends, or whatever the reason is, it's okay. We'll help you leave the world today with assisted payment. They'll help you pay for it because nothing's free in this world. Anyway, next week we should be having some of these guys from Suspect Sky. I believe, don't mark my words or anything, because sometimes things fall through. But supposedly we're gonna have Gary and Adrian from Suspect Skies be our guest next week, when David Dubine should be returning. But to kind of end the show tonight, a little bit early, I wanted to talk about this, because this is the biggest get out of jail free card that every government in the world has at this moment. In other words, they can completely destroy the planet, get rid of the population, erase borders, rob the public, do all of the programs that any person might have a theory that there's conspiracies about out there, about depopulation, or one world governments, or a totalitarian, transhuman, technocratic nightmare. Not to be a doomer, but there's these plans out there by these think tanks, by these governments, by these eugenicists, by these globalists, as Alex Jones likes to say. Lots and lots and lots of different people, right, have these plans. But if things get too bad, we always got the get out of jail free card. Alien.gov. Mystery grows after White House says stay tuned. 2 newly registered federal website domains, alien.gov and aliens.gov, for the sequel, of course, are drawing attention after records showed they were created this week by the U.S. government agency, fueling speculation as questions around UFOs and extraterrestrial life return to the spotlight. The timing notable. Domains surfaced weeks after President Trump said he would push for the release of government files related to UFOs and extraterrestrial life, reigniting the debate over what information the federal government has kept classified from the American public and the world public at large. As of March 19th, neither website is live. Visiting the URL simply results in an error message, but we could solve world war, world hunger. We could do all of this stuff if we just so happen to realize that there's extraterrestrials, possibly or factually, and that they might be the reason that you see these orbs in the sky. And plus the ancient aliens, the ancient aliens over there. See that spaceship landing on the Pyramid Mountain right there? Or it's a bird. It depends on which show you're watching, right? Or they could just bring you, the pay us taxes for the rest of your life for ever expanding, exponential, non-visible, non-provable threat, just in time for the perfection of AI video, sound, and effects, drone warfare, and maybe various other programs out there. Now, a few years ago, Bluebeam kind of sound silly, but when you know what kind of technology we have out there today, it doesn't seem as silly. And if you were going to project the theater of war across the entire planet, they might not accept the traditional reasons of border disputes, resource disputes, or, we don't like this dictator, or maybe they have, weapons of mass destruction. We all know that there's plenty of mass destructions to kill us over many times on this planet. So that's really not an issue to go to war unless, they can prove that somebody is indeed about to use something and then we stop them. That'd be a great Tom Clancy story. Or you could just say that there's aliens and they're nefarious. And if you don't do what we say, take your rations, go to the camps, deal with the reduction of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then you're a traitor and you're unpatriotic and you're deemed a threat. And it could be literally that an extraterrestrial invasion already happened in the form of AI. Do you think your government would actually tell you that the AI that they came up with at very, different? I'm not saying that there aren't smart people and programmers and inventors out there that are creating AI, but it's very possible that in the confusion in the field of the newly emerging technology we call artificial intelligence, that if you got a more sophisticated program from off-world, that you could implement it and it would know how to secretly and easily take over the network that we currently use as humans and slowly change our minds and slowly change what we think our perceptions about reality are over to a point where the AI is in control and you would have no way of knowing if said AI actually came from a terrestrial source or not. That's just the truth. We're so far out of the loop, even thinking what we know is going on is really silly. So every time you get on and you watch TV and you watch pundits and all of these talkers on the internet, including myself, we don't know what's going on. We can't prove it. All we can do is read papers, read articles, look at video, use deductive logic and critical thinking skills to determine whether or not something might be real. But the truth is that you cannot believe anything you see, read, or hear unless it's something simple like gravity or you're going to get burned if you put your hand in the fire. You can go test that and find that out for yourself. But as far as aliens, how would you know if an amphibian being crawled out of a saucer or a triangular craft and walked up to your door and knocked on it, that didn't come from a lab in China or the United States or Germany or France or anywhere in the world, actually? We already know that Chinese scientists have cross hybridized a rabbit and a human hybrid embryo, and it was living, and they supposedly killed it. And there's so many other experiments that have already gone on that are outside the privy of the public that it would probably blow us all away. So the idea that they're just going to open up and say, hey, there's aliens is a strong possibility. It's a get out of jail free card for a lot of the world's problems if you can give them a new fear and a new problem to focus on or believe in. And if you can get them all to do it at once, you got it. Anyway, hopefully everybody's doing good and planning ahead. It might be a rough summer. If you didn't already go get gas, you might want to try to find the cheapest place to get gas and maybe fill up. And maybe we'll get some relief by midsummer, possibly, or something like that. Or it could just become a new reality that the new number is $3 or $4 or $5 a gallon. And that makes things a lot harder to deal with if you have to travel for work or buy food, because that's all dependent on that. Anyway, that's all I got for Civilization Cycle. Thanks for joining us. And David should be back next week. Sorry, I got stuck on something. Yeah, David should be back next week for Civilization Cycle as normal. And we'll get to find out what's going on in his neck of the woods, considering he changed neck of the woods and now lives in a different neck of the woods. It'll be cool to get a perspective from somewhere else on the planet that doesn't have the same exact filter as us here in the US and see what they're tripping on. So I would suggest you plant some vegetables, plant some fruits, stock up on meat, stock up on gas, stock up on toilet paper. Make sure you have availability, clean water, all the same stuff you would do if an imminent threat of a storm or some kind of natural disaster was coming. You should already be ready for the any scenario. Anyway, peace out. And don't forget to sign up for the show notes here. And if you'd like to help us out, send us a super chat. Buy us a coffee. Appreciate it. Peace out.